In 2019, Western automakers were laughing at Chinese electric vehicles. They were calling them glorified golf carts.
You don't see them at all as a competitor?
No.
Well, the Chinese built a lot of great stuff, but cars is not one of them just yet.
4 years later, nobody's laughing anymore.
In less than 4 years, look at it.
Yeah, look at 2019.
From 21, in 3 years, they went from last to first place.
In China this year, half of new car sales will be either BEVs or PHEVs. That's remarkable. 1 in 2. That's up from 10% 4 years ago. 10% to 50% in China.
In just 4 years, China went from dead last in global car exports to number 1. And they're selling electric cars for $10,000 that actually work. This isn't just disruption, it's economic warfare on wheels. And while America and Europe spent years arguing about tariffs, China built the biggest EV empire in history. The craziest part? We handed them the blueprint. China's EV dominance didn't happen overnight. This was a calculated takeover a decade in the making.
China's car industry is really willing to collaborate with its tech industry because it can do that, right? Like it doesn't have, like it's not so entrenched in like, you know, the throes of car building. There's so many young, talented people in China that are like, you know, they have new ideas, they have new ways of thinking, and they're not necessarily encumbered by what's going on in the past.
While Western automakers were protecting their gas-powered cash cows, China poured $250 billion into building a complete EV ecosystem, from batteries to motors to software.
China has the entire ecosystem working for it. China has battery, China has ore, lithium ore, and the entire value chain is predominantly Chinese. So eventual winner is going to be China.
But the ultimate plot twist? Remember when we invited Tesla to build their gigafactory in Shanghai? That might have been the biggest tech transfer in automotive history.
You take away Tesla from the China market and industry, I'm not sure we're anywhere close to where we are today. I can tell you in 2019, I had dinners with the CEOs of Chinese automakers. This is 2019, including BYD. And I talked to the CEOs of other Chinese automakers, and they said, electrics, I'm not sure. Maybe a niche, maybe. But no customer really wants an electric car. That's our problem here. And that was as recent as 2019. Enter Tesla.
Tesla showed up in China and basically ran a masterclass in how to build desirable EVs. Chinese companies took notes, made improvements, and started pumping out cars that aren't just cheap. They're actually good.
So these brands are, and their technology, they're getting legitimately good on their own.
Let's talk price tags, because this is where things get wild. Look at this, $9,700.
What?
Yes.
The Seagull.
Its starting price is $9,700, which is about 5% cheaper than a previous model. Their cars are getting cheaper.
That's right. BYD is selling EVs for under $10,000 in China. The cheapest EV you can buy in America? The Chevy Bolt at around $27,000. And that's considered a bargain. But how are Chinese companies making EVs so cheap?
China today, as a manufacturing base for cars, has the capability to build cars at costs that are 25 to 30% lower than any other country in the world. Now that's staggering, a staggering advantage.
It's not just cheap labor or government subsidies, though those help. It's their revolutionary approach to manufacturing.
To see how EVs are made in China today, NIO opened their doors to their sprawling factory complex in the eastern Chinese city of Hefei. We're told 90% of every part of the car is made within less than a mile radius, while the US has to import parts from around the world. It's a mostly automated production line.
So in traditional factories, you'd see workers driving forklifts around the factory floor. Here, they have robots doing the job.
And at the end, a choreography of robots doing the final inspections and humans driving it off the line.
While we've been shipping parts across continents, China built entire EV ecosystems within walking distance of their factories. It's like comparing Amazon's same-day delivery to the Pony Express. Now for the million-dollar question, are these cheap Chinese EVs actually any good? The short answer, they're not just good, they're innovating in ways Western automakers haven't even considered.
Backing out and reversing into this power swap station. and I don't have to do anything.
So I was very skeptical because I was like, well, is charging really that easy? Like, is swapping really that big of a deal? But what I liked about it is that, it shuts up so many EV haters and skeptics in one fell swoop.
Take battery swapping, a technology NIO has perfected. Instead of waiting 30 minutes at a charging station, you pull up to a swapping station and get a fresh battery in under 3 minutes.
After less than 3 minutes, we've now got a full battery, 100%.
3 minutes to go from empty to full. That's faster than filling up a gas tank. And while Western automakers kept telling us no one wants that, Chinese companies were busy building 3,000 battery swap stations across their country.
NIO has, I think, 2,800 in China, and I think last I checked, they were at about 59 million swaps that they've done since the brand's inception in 2018.
Wow. And if you think the innovation stops there, think again. Chinese EVs are coming loaded with tech that makes American cars look like they're running Windows 95.
Every single car, brand new car, electric vehicle I got my hands on in China, they all have these really thoughtful software interfaces. Every single one. And they were a lot of times they were self-developed. And it all worked really well. It all looked really pretty. It was all super responsive. And I just think about some of the trials and tribulations I've had in American EVs, and it was frustrating.
So China's winning the EV race on price, technology, and innovation. But surely American know-how and manufacturing excellence will help us catch up, right? About that. Remember all those rare earth minerals needed for EV batteries? Guess who controls most of them?
So to build an EV, you need 66.3 kilograms of graphite, okay? Then you need 53.2 kilograms of copper. For gas, you only need 22.3 kilograms of copper for a gasoline car.
All these minerals are crucial for building EVs. And when you look at where they're found...
Well, guess what country, natural resources, has the most of these rare metals?
China doesn't just have the manufacturing advantage, they have the raw materials too. It's like they're hosting the game, wrote the rules, and own the ball. This has put Western automakers in a bind. They're getting squeezed from all sides.
The thing that keeps executives in America and Germany and Japan and Korea up at night is that if you look at it, China today as a manufacturing base for cars has the capability to build cars at costs that are 25 to 30% lower than any other country in the world.
So what's the West's response to this existential threat? Tariffs. Lots and lots of tariffs.
Starting Friday, provisional tariffs will be imposed on EVs made in China coming into the EU on top of the standard 10% tariff on imported cars. The rate slightly tweaked from the initial proposal last month. It ranged from 17.4% to 37.6%. Western car makers like Tesla and BMW will also be subject to 20.8% tariffs.
And the US is going even further.
100% tariff rate on EVs will protect American manufacturers from China's unfair trade practices. This action advances President Biden's vision of ensuring the future of the auto industry will be made in America by American workers.
That's right. A 100% tariff, meaning a $10,000 Chinese EV would cost $20,000 by the time it hits American shores. Problem solved, right? Not so fast. The Chinese aren't exactly quaking in their boots over these tariffs. In fact, they've got a few tricks up their sleeves. First, they're building factories abroad to bypass tariffs completely.
BYD opened a factory in Thailand, its first EV plant in Southeast Asia. It's part of a wider push into the fast-growing regional market and beyond.
When you can't jump over the wall, go around it. And Chinese automakers are circling the wagons. Some are even eyeing Mexico as a production base, which could give them tariff-free access to the U.S. market under NAFTA.
American automakers may also face competition from established companies like BYD, known for mass-producing affordable cars. It wants to build a factory in Mexico, which could help it circumvent the hefty tariffs that the U.S. has on Chinese vehicles.
Even with tariffs, Chinese EVs still have such a cost advantage that they remain competitive.
Competition in China is increasingly fierce, with new players entering the market in recent months, including home appliance brand Xiaomi.
But what's most revealing is how Chinese EV executives talk about the Western market. This is the CEO of BYD, asked about entering the U.S. market.
I don't think we don't consider U.S. market, at this time, because it's too complicated politically. You don't need necessarily to go to every market. You only go to the market you feel is ready, everything is waiting for you. Then that's our approach. Like one is a BYD resource. Let us focus on other markets. It's already occupy a lot of resource from us. And the second, it's not necessary for us to come to US. Maybe sometimes, but I don't see that schedule now. Yeah.
They don't even need us. They're selling to over 70 countries, dominating Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. The US market is just one piece of a much larger global strategy. So what's the end game here? Can Western automakers compete, or are we watching the slow-motion collapse of an industry? Some analysts think it's game over unless we completely change our approach.
I think the US might want to look at China's own playbook, starting back when I first went to China in 1986 and then started my first company in 1990. What did China do at that time? It said, hey, you want access to our big, beautiful market here. Here's the terms.
Others believe the only way forward is collaboration with Chinese companies.
I'd recommend that the US do the same with the ambition of building out supply chains here in the United States that we can call our own. So right now we open up the cupboard and we look, how are our battery supply chains doing here in the US? Very thin.
The cold, hard truth is that the West is at least a decade behind China in the EV race, and the gap isn't narrowing, it's widening.
The rest of the auto industry is very terrified of these Chinese car companies because they're coming into Europe and they're coming into South America and Southeast Asia, and they're taking over within China, all these places where, you know, the incumbents, the European automakers, American automakers, Japanese, they have ruled basically for decades. They really have been blindsided by this.
But before we throw in the towel, there is one bright spot in this story. Competition breeds innovation. The challenge from China might be exactly what Western automakers need to finally get serious about EVs. The reality is, this race is far from over, but Western automakers need to stop arguing about tariffs and start focusing on what matters, building better, cheaper EVs that people actually want to buy.
I can see a scenario where he says, look at what I've done. BYD's bringing a $3 billion investment in. They're going to hire thousands of Americans, and they're going to build out our supply chains in Kansas. Wow. That's all plus. That's all upside. I could see him doing a deal like that.
Whether through competition, collaboration, or a mix of both, the EV revolution is happening with or without us, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
China is already the world's biggest producer of cars and leads the battery-powered industry. 60% of the world's electric vehicles, or EVs, are sold in China. Earlier this year, homegrown brand BYD overtook Tesla as the world's biggest-selling EV maker.
And for consumers? Well, the future might just mean better, cheaper EVs for everyone.
Companies from China to the U.S. are trying to create electric cars that are less expensive and can drive further on a single charge. Tesla had quite a head start, but lately some Chinese companies are showing that getting off fossil fuels does not need to come with a hefty price tag.
So next time someone laughs at Chinese cars, maybe pause and think about the last time you checked your smartphone. You know, that technological marvel made in China that's basically an extension of your brain. Then ask yourself, who's really got the last laugh?